Oh, hello. Welcome to the Curious Emporium. Have a look at what we have in store for you.
Imagine this, 1966, a small town in West Virginia, Point Pleasant. Suddenly, it becomes the center of a mystery that is frankly terrifying. For 13 months, the town was haunted by something, a creature with wings that nobody could explain, an enigma that would eventually become famous around the world. So yeah, let's dive into this bizarre and truly fascinating piece of American folklore. It all kicked off on a cold November night. And when the first people who saw it tried to describe it, well, the words they used were simple but absolutely bone-chilling. Steve Mallett's description here, like a man with wings, became the bedrock of a legend that, honestly, still puzzles us today. So what exactly did people see out there, in the dark? Let's try to build a kind of police sketch based on what dozens of eyewitnesses said. First up, its size. People consistently said this thing was tall, way taller than the average man, somewhere around 7 feet. And then you had the wings. We're not talking about bird wings here. These were described as massive, almost leathery, with a wingspan of at least 10 feet. And get this, witnesses said it didn't really flap them. It could just shoot straight up into the air, kind of like a helicopter, and then glide at incredible speeds. But the one feature, the one that truly terrified people more than anything else, it was the eyes. They were described as huge, piercing, hypnotic, and glowing bright red. People said those eyes were often the very first thing they'd see in the darkness, long before they could make out the shape of the creature itself. So, how did this whole thing even start? Let's go back to the very beginning, to the first encounters that put this small Appalachian town on the map and pretty much scared the entire community half to death. You know, what's really wild is just how fast this all escalated. The first real whisper of it was on November 12th, when some gravediggers saw this brown human being flying around. But the real moment, the one that lit the fuse, was just 3 days later. That's when two young couples had this terrifyingly close encounter. By the very next day, the local paper was already scrambling for words, and the legend of the Mothman was officially born. And that encounter on November 15th, it was the stuff of nightmares. The two couples, they floor it, trying to get away in their car. But this creature, it just keeps up with them, gliding right alongside as their speedometer hits 100 miles per hour. I mean, think about that. This wasn't just a quick look. It was a full-on, high-speed pursuit. So for the next 13 months, the sightings just keep coming. It's this weird mix of genuine fear and, local kids going out looking for a thrill. But the story was about to take this really dark, really tragic turn that would forever connect the Mothman to a real-world disaster. This is where the story sends a shiver down your spine. Mary Hyre was the local newspaper reporter covering all this Mothman weirdness. Just weeks before the disaster, she told an investigator about this awful dream she had, a dream that was about to become a horrifying reality. 46. Just let that number sink in for a second. It's not just a statistic. It represents 46 lives cut short, families torn apart, and an entire town plunged into grief. Right in the middle of rush hour, only 10 days before Christmas, the silver bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Ohio just buckled. It collapsed into the freezing river below. 46 people lost their lives. And just like Mary Hyre had dreamed, Christmas packages from their cars were seen floating in the wreckage. And then came the strangest part of all. For 13 months, this creature had been a constant presence. And then, after the bridge fell, nothing. It was gone. The sightings just stopped, dead. And that right there is what cemented the Mothman's reputation. Maybe it wasn't a monster. Maybe it was something else, a warning, a harbinger of doom. So what in the world was the Mothman? Was it a warning? Did it cause the disaster? Or was it something else entirely? For decades now, people have been debating all the different theories. Okay, let's break down the main theories, right? On one hand, you have the most logical one. It was just a misidentified bird. Maybe a big sandhill crane, they're tall and have red markings near their eyes. Or a huge owl. Then there's the mutant theory, that chemicals from that old TNT plant created some kind of freak animal. Of course, you also have the psychological angle, good old-fashioned mass hysteria. And then you've got the supernatural explanation, that it was an alien or an angel or something from another dimension. And this psychological concept is actually super important for the whole mass hysteria idea. It's called pareidolia. It's basically why we see a man in the moon or faces in the clouds. Our brains are hardwired to find patterns. So, when you have an entire town already on edge, spooked by these stories, is it so crazy to think that their brains might start connecting the dots, turning a shadow or a large bird into a 7-foot tall monster with glowing red eyes? So the sightings may have stopped back in the 60s, but believe me, the story of the Mothman was far from over. Let's take a look at how Point Pleasant managed to turn its local terror into a source of pride and a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, the impact on the town today is just staggering. Check this out. Point Pleasant has a population of just under 5,000 people, but every year, more than 15,000 tourists from all over the world show up for the Mothman Festival. The town has completely and totally embraced its hometown monster. And this is the key to why the legend is still so powerful. Jeff Wamsley, who actually founded the Mothman Museum there in town, he just hits the nail on the head. The fact that we don't have a clear answer isn't a flaw in the story. It's what gives the story its power. It's this unsolved mystery that has become a huge part of the town's history. And that's really the big takeaway here, isn't it? The story of the Mothman is a perfect example of how folklore can literally reshape a community's identity. A story that was born from fear and tragedy has given Point Pleasant this unique character, a thriving tourist industry, and honestly, a really cool way to tell its story to the rest of us. So, in the end, we're left with that big question. After all the sightings, all the theories, all the tragedy, what is the Mothman? Is it a monster, a messenger? Or is it maybe just a mirror, something that reflects our own deep-seated fears of the unknown and the things we can't control? Whatever it is, one thing's for sure, the mystery is here to stay.